Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all.
Come on, yo.
Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
The Slant.
All right.
Slant. All right, Paulie, let's go.
I'm right here. We're gonna have a great show. We're gonna have a wild show. Yeah, it's our first show back in about 2 weeks. Live show. We got a lot going at you. Right now, let's lay it down. 10 new memberships we need. Gifted, earned, given. Do it right now.
That's better.
10. That's right. Yes.
Gotta go.
New memberships. I'll be back. In a few seconds. All right. Okay, we got the goals going. I'll say hello to you guys in a second. Let's also pitch the defund the Thought Police t-shirts. It's the holiday season. It's happening right now. You're thinking like, I need to get some great gifts, some original gifts. Get this awesome t-shirt in all different types of colors. There's the link right there. Defund the Thought Police. Boom. Be right back.
Five,
4,
10.
Uno.
Paulie here on the Latino Slant. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. You should be able to. I feel mighty rusty. Maybe it's all that Mexican sun that was lucky to get. Maybe later on I'll share a photo or two from our trip. How you doing, everybody? It's Monday night here on the Latino Slant, our weekly live show called The Week, episode number 76. And like I said, if you're looking for some cool, nifty gifts for the holidays, there's a holiday season coming up. Defund the Thought Police. The great quality, different colors. Also, too, it helps the channel out. Every little cent. Yes, it does. And like I said today, the goal for memberships is 10. Yes. So if you're a member now, give one away. Give one, give two, give 5, give 10, but do it. Do it now. Do it. Listen, we have a really cool announcement at the end of this show. The end of this live stream, we have a live performance announcement, but we really have so much to unpack from last week that I immediately, as soon as I got back into town, I called Brandon Loran Maxwell from the Daily Cella. Come on, homeboy, let's do it. Let's wrap up this election season. And he says, "Ooh, I got a story for you. It's gonna drop. It's gonna drop right before we go live." I'm like, "Oh yeah?" He's like, "Oh yeah." Well, come on, we gotta talk about it. So we're gonna bring him on in a second. But before we do that, we got our boy Fletcher. Okay, man, come on. Did you miss me?
Oh man, miss you so much. Oh,
I was in the hills of Cabo San Lucas listening to you last week. Good job, buddy. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
It was the chat. The chat helped me out.
The chat helped you out, man. They're starting to come in. I love it. Listen, we shared this link on Twitter X. Please share it and let people know that we're also live on Facebook and on YouTube. What else you got for us, Fletcher? What's going on before we bring in our special guest?
Oh, well, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us once again. Yeah, we're back. We're live, and we're here to stay. Also, want you to check out, Paulie did drop a few videos come in, a lot of good ones. So if you
sure did.
Go check them out. He has some spicy takes on a lot of new stuff that's dropping. So just make sure you'll also hit that notification bell. Make sure you are subscribed. Sometimes YouTube does some wonky things, and we would love it if you guys got a membership today, because we only need 10 for our goals, but don't stop it if you want to get more.
Yeah, we just dropped an incredible video today on the Star Wars news of their trilogy being announced. We got Cameron on. It is already just like number one for the day, that video. And what we're trying to do is have videos for you guys every morning, whether it's clipped or a brand new fresh one. It's going to be relevant to the day. 5 a.m. Pacific, 8 a.m. East Coast time. How cool is that, man?
That's so cool.
Okay.
So cool.
Let's say hello to the members of the channel first, and they're getting on in here. Who do we got? Really quickly.
Let's see. Remember, we got Juice, member of
Juice.
the channel.
Hello, Juice. Hola.
We got Julissa, member of the channel, and everybody
ready.
streaming in.
Yes.
Members, we got Scribe Light. We got Donovan
My
Bradford.
boy Scribe.
We got my boy Biss. We got Hayes.
Vinny.
And we got Solomon Thornton in the house, and many more are you trickling in. Thank you so much. Make sure to hit that like.
And make sure hit the like, please. And then I know we have a voting poll. I want to give a big shout out to our members. You guys keep these lights going. It's been an incredible last 3-4 months of growth. And we have a goal, so consider becoming a member today or gifting memberships. We're almost there to 60 people live with us combined. We love that, but let's bring in our special guest.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. We got a new. We got Christopher Peak, who's a member of the channel. 5 a.m. is too early. Well, then you watch it when you get up, brother. I'm just saying, I got something new every morning when you get up.
That's right.
Every morning you get up, man. All right, let's do it. He is the founder, the creator, and writer, one of many writers, and filmmaker of the Daily Cello, our buddy Brandon Loran Maxwell.
How you doing?
Hey,
Nice.
did anything happen this past week while I was gone?
I don't know. I was gone too.
I don't know. Did something happen? I think there was something going on.
I think one of the most exciting presidential races of our lifetime happened.
Oh,
man, you know what? Let's just get into it before we go to your article. What is your initial overall feelings of this election and the fallout that you've seen, and some people celebrating, some people weeping and gnashing of teeth?
Sure. Well, I think so far from what I've seen is I don't think that the Democrat Party is going to learn many lessons anytime soon. You know, I think there was like this brief window of a few minutes of introspection, and now they're right back to blaming Black people and Latinos for voting Republican and kind of employing the same rhetoric that got them into this position to begin with, calling everybody a racist, calling everybody a homophobe, calling everybody sexist. And I think that's largely why they ended up in the position they did. I don't think it's the only reason why, but I think it's a reason among a multitude of reasons.
I mean, Fletcher, just listening to that kind of sounds how Hollywood treats us. Hey,
well, shoot.
It's the same. It is the same. White liberal do-gooder progressive mentality, and it's so out of touch with reality. It always has been, man. It always has been. And at least with Hollywood, there was like the Hollywood bubble, that they just continue to put themselves in. But
I'll say this: I think this election last week, I think that election night was an indictment of the media, the mainstream media. And the reason I say that is because all of them seem so caught off guard by the results of the election. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to toot my own horn here. I am the only person in all of Latino media that went on record before the election and tweeted Donald Trump is going to win the election and win it by more votes than he did last time. And I did that 2 or 3 days before the election. And I was right. And everybody got mad at me at the time. but me and you, Paulie, have had plenty of conversations, and I think you thought it was going to go that way too, as did a number of people I spoke with who keep their ear to the ground, who hang out with regular people. I mean, I was very fortunate to spend this past year touring 35 cities, and I heard the same complaints about Democrats in all of those 35 cities. So I was so confident that Trump was going to win, and with more votes by last time, that, like you saw, I said I would get Latinx tattooed across my back if I was wrong. And the person who I made that bet with has since deleted his Twitter. So,
I mean, writing in the private chat who that person was. Write in the private chat who that person was, because that is incredible. And you're absolutely right, and that's part of what you brought up. You bring up in your opinion piece is that we're lifelong Democrats, and it's like if we just question what has been going on, there's no room for conversation. You get branded. You're all right. You're a MAGA. You're like the worst of the worst.
Sure, and it's there's so many people who are forced onto the center right or right of the spectrum by virtue of the fact that you can't have any conversation on the left. There's just this sort of orthodoxy that is accepted at face value. And I see these rumblings online. Oh, if only the left had their own Joe Rogan, we would have done so much better. And that's so laughable, considering that Joe Rogan came from the left and was driven away by the left for the very fact that he has a freewheeling podcast where they discuss different ideas. And I think that you saw that contrast between Republicans and Democrats in that Donald Trump went on to his podcast, had a free-flowing 3-hour conversation. Kamala Harris did not. And I think that is indicative of where the parties are at, and they suffered as a result.
I mean, on that note, right? You know that the Rogan show is 100% authentic in approach. Whether you like what they're saying or not, it's like these people are speaking from the heart. These are conversations. So I think a lot of people were impressed with those interviews with the Trump and the Vance ones. And it was like 60 million and counting, whatever those views were.
Well, Trump, I think, did 40 million. I don't know where Vance
right,
is,
something ridiculous. And then you have Kamala Harris, who went on, what was that one? The we were
Call
talking
Her
about
Daddy or something like that.
Call Me Daddy,
Yeah.
Right, Fletch? Something Daddy. Well,
yeah, it was Call Me Daddy, and they actually paid for that thing.
Well, that's what we're, And not only was it not an authentic conversation, in my opinion, but nothing apparently was authentic. They rebuilt the set. They paid $100,000 to rebuild the set so the podcaster could go to Kamala.
Yeah. Well, I think that when it's all said and done, strategically speaking, we will look back, and there was a lot of mistakes leading up to the election. A
lot of mistakes.
But two huge strategic mistakes, even though I still don't think they would have won the election, but they probably could have done better, is that she chose Walz as her vice presidential candidate. He was a terrible pick. And I talked about that at the time. You're talking about somebody who couldn't even win the rural voters in his own district. And here you bring him on thinking he's going to win the rural voters across America. He also had a lot of baggage. All sorts of things came out about him because he had not been vetted. So there was that. And the other one, was not going on Joe Rogan. It was not engaging with the voters who you were trying to win over. It was remaining in your bubble.
So with that, this is a historic victory. You're saying that this is the biggest win for Latinos and Republicans in 24 years. And the popular vote, the House, the Senate, the House was just today official that the Republicans got the majority. What are we watching here, man?
Well, it was a clear message that was being sent, and I don't know how anybody can read it any other way. The American people said to the establishment that they were tired of the establishment. And all we can do is theorize why, but my guess is that it's a multitude of reasons, and among them is a lot of this sort of woke orthodoxy that has been pushed on everybody in entertainment, in media, in education, and people are just tired of it. You can't have a horrible economy and the woke kind of orthodoxy being pushed on you at the same time. It's just too much for voters. I think they just said, I'm over it. And I also think that people looked at Kamala and saw her as unqualified. She didn't do very well in most of her interviews when she was allowed to speak on her own. And I think in retrospect, you can look at her campaign and see that, she raised $1 billion. She ended up $20 million in debt. And I don't know how you argue that she should have been in charge of the economy. Now seeing that, she made some really bad financial decisions. And, in some ways, as Americans, we should rest peacefully knowing that money can't buy elections, because she outraised Trump and spent more money than Trump, and she still didn't win the election. And that's the second time that's happened. Look, Bloomberg, when he ran, he also had a bunch of money and couldn't win the election. So this talking point that the more money you have wins elections is not necessarily true.
Okay, let's go to we have a super chat before we go to your article. And thank you so much, Brandon, for being here. Carlos just thought out for $2. Thank you for that super chat. I think the only people not blamed were Asians. I've seen white men, white women, Black, Latino, Amish gamers, and maybe one or two other groups to be blamed for Trump's election. No Asians yet. Carlos, I don't know if you're joking or
I know.
being serious, but it seems that the pundits of these dying channels, as far as legacy media, are just throwing anything out up on the wall, man. I got a couple of videos queued up, but it's stuff you've seen as well this past week.
Yeah.
People are bonkers, man. And these are supposed to be people we go and look to as far as getting our knowledge and facts about certain issues, whether it's politics or our society. Go ahead, Brandon. I'm sorry.
No, they're a broken record at this point, and it's embarrassing. Like, I'm embarrassed for the Democrat Party, and I'm embarrassed for the people who make that their life mission, to just call everybody who disagrees with them a racist, call everybody who disagrees with them a bigot, because that's all they have in their toolbox. It's sort of like that, if you've been equipped to believe that everything around you is a nail and all you have is a hammer, then you just start hammering. Everything is a nail. And I don't know how Democrats get out of this without creating a chasm or some type of gap between them and that wing of their party. Because as of right now, I don't think it's possible to win back Latino males or Black guys or even a large portion of the Latino community while still pushing a lot of the nonsense that they're pushing. They have to make a decision.
Carlos goes on to say, Estrada, that is, I'm serious. The pundits and legacy media have blamed all those groups at one point, and I have not seen them blame Asians. I have no idea, Carlos. You got me. I mean, in watching the news clips from legacy media, I'm only watching sound bites through X. I don't watch their full show, so I don't know, brother. But thank you for the tune. Thank you for the super chat. That we appreciate that. And your friend here, Big Brown Dad, is in the chat. I guess I should praise him for being so bold to leave a chat.
Right. Well, I mean, but
woke is your boogeyman, Carlos.
That's why Republicans should be very optimistic that they're probably going to do well in the primaries and they're probably going to do well the next election, because that's the takeaway from the woke left. The takeaway is to just say, oh, that's your boogeyman. They don't actually listen to what the voters are saying, even though Kamala lost the popular vote by, I think she's still down by 3 or 4 million votes at this point. And so I think Republicans should, I don't agree with everything Republicans push, but I think if I'm a Republican, I'm going to be really happy when I see responses like that, because it tells me that they haven't learned anything still. And I also think it's funny that, everybody's blaming Latinos for Trump's win. I mean, I didn't see this same mindset when people were self-immolating outside the consulate. Everybody was cheering them on. I didn't see the same mindset when Black people were burning down their own communities. But when it comes to losing Democrat power, all of a sudden, no. That's too self-destructive. So most of these people, they don't care about actually trying to resolve the issues in their own communities. They care about power. They care about the Democrat mainstream structure. And right now, the Democrat Party is the mainstream. They're the establishment.
Was it who said that?
Let me expand on that.
Who said that?
One thing. The reason they're
really quickly, was it you who said that? You said that the left are now the man.
Well, they are. I mean, part of the reason that Trump did so well is if you look at the coalition that he built, his coalition is made up of Democrats from the 80s and 90s, right? The Bill Maher's of the world and Joe Rogan and people that used to be liberals, classical liberals or Democrats. Okay. So like me, I could be a Democrat, like a liberal from the 90s. But I can't be one of those far left woke people who like you would see today in today's party. So I just think that part of the reason that Trump was so successful is he built this coalition. He saw that. He drew them in. Labor is a perfect example. Labor used to be a huge block in the Democrat Party. Okay, huge. But they're not far left. A lot of them are protectionists, but they're center left. And there's a huge difference right now between the center left and the far left. Trump exploited that.
You're muted, Paulie. You're muted.
I told you, man. I'm rusty. I
It's
feel
all right.
very rusty today.
Shake it off. Shake it off.
Shake it off. Over
Shake it
100
off.
people live here on the chat, on X, on YouTube, and Facebook. We encourage you guys to come on to our YouTube chat and discuss, argue, have fun in the chat. And if you want to get your point across, super chat us, and we will be sure to talk about it, like the way Carlos brought that up in his super chat. But right now, let's go. Woke Hubris, doom Democrats, not inflation. This is by you. This just came out. Sure to hopefully awaken thought.
Yeah. So this goes out in the newsletter tomorrow morning.
Okay.
It'll also go up on all of our social media platforms. I put it out tonight on my own platform, but it'll go out tomorrow. It'll get a fair amount of traction, I'm sure. Look, anybody who's ever read me over the years will not be surprised by some of the things I'm saying, but I think it's something that's worth reading if Democrats want to have a different result next time.
Let's just read a little bit, and then we're going to jump on down to where you said, you would like to. Last week, the American electorate dealt the Democratic Party its most crushing defeat, political defeat of the 21st century. Powered by a diverse coalition of voters, Trump not only won the Electoral College in the popular vote, but secured the House, Senate, setting the national stage for a dramatic rightward shift. Was this was this diverse coalition on purpose? Do you think that's what they ultimately wanted?
Yeah, I do. I think it was on purpose. I think Trump went and spoke to labor. He did very good. I think Trump went into places like Brooklyn where people don't normally go, and he went into some other communities. I think this was very deliberate. Charlie Kirk went to hundreds of campuses across the country because Republicans traditionally have been told that they can't win the young vote. Well, that turned out not to be true. Trump won the Gen Z vote. And so this is the first time in many, many, many years, I think since Reagan, since Republicans have won the 18 to 29-year-old vote. And in large part, that is due to the organizing by people like Charlie Kirk, and Trump reaching out to new voters. Look at the Amish. How many people did Charlie Kirk register? Something like 80,000 Amish people in Pennsylvania.
Really?
Earlier this year, the federal government raided an Amish farm for producing pasteurized milk. Well, that turned out to be an underestimate on how much that was going to tick them off, because a lot of them trekked into town on their little buggies and casted a vote for Trump. And so that's a fascinating dynamic of the election that not a lot of people have talked about.
I think you also there was also that gentleman, persistent Scott Pressler,
Correct. Yeah.
In particular in Pennsylvania, and newsflash, flamboyant gay man who's a Republican and who pretty much handed Trump all the new registration in Pennsylvania, which that in itself is a story to talk about. So yeah, just wanted to point that out. Let's go to your story here. Let's jump down.
Wait. Before you jump down,
Sure.
I want you to read the part about education if you can, because I think this is important for people to know.
Okay, where
I think it's but was it the economy, and then the next like three paragraphs or
no
so.
problem. All right, to be sure inflation was a factor, nobody likes high prices, but to assume inflation was the only factor is a failure to see the forest through the trees and a surefire recipe to cook up more future embarrassing political losses. Both Nixon and Reagan, after all, won re-election against a backdrop of high inflation. That's a good point. Others have pointed to education, suggesting Trump voters are too stupid to know what is in their best interest. That is a big one right now, because they're saying Latino men are idiots because they don't know that they just voted to have themselves deported.
Right. It's such a laughable like argument from the
Mhm.
left to imply that people who vote for Trump or people who don't have a college degree are idiots.
Mm-hmm.
Not true. And I explain why in this column.
Okay, let's go on. However, the implication that not having a college degree equates not being intelligent is itself an uneducated assumption about the economic incentives that drive daily decisions. For example, I would hardly call it intelligent to assume 100,000 in school debt during an economic downturn.
Right. And so okay, so there's that. And then the next paragraph, which gloss over the fact that the election saw a whopping 10-point swing in college educated counties across the country. A 10-point swing in college educated counties. Cities ranging from Manhattan, a very educated city, to New Haven, which is home to Ivy League schools, all saw significant Republican gains. In fact, some of Trump's biggest gains were in college towns. So that theory goes right out the window. And I think, again, going back to the incentives that economics creates, there are plenty of people who are intelligent and who are informed who don't have a 4-year degree that they went into debt for $100,000 for, but know their own finances and know what's important to them and their own lives. So this is just, again, this goes back to this elitist air within the Democrat Party and this sort of disdain that they have for working class people. It's gross. I mean, it's the reason why I I don't want anything to do with the way that the left is right now. That side of the left that expresses so much contempt for the working class, it's embarrassing. I don't want anything to do with it. And look, I don't know if you saw some of those videos that floated out after the election. I mean, you had a college professor at the University of Oregon that told students to go kill themselves for voting for Trump. This doesn't sound like a very, very good outreach strategy to me.
Yeah, it's
to win over voters.
That's the most extreme. Yeah, absolutely. It's been getting extreme. So why then did Democrats lose the election? The answer is hubris. For all of the hyperbole around hyperbole around gas and immigrants, the election was bigger than. Hey man, don't correct me while I'm talking, man.
Sorry.
Do it in the background. Jeez. Who is it? Who booked this guy, Fletch? The election was bigger than gas and immigrants. It was about the misplaced priorities of the modern left, which not only spends a disproportionate amount of its energy trafficking in grievance and victimhood, but presents itself as pessimistic, paternalistic, and out of touch as a result. I mean, that's
mouthful.
Wow. What are you really trying to say, Brandon? What are you really trying to say?
I think that the Democrat Party spends a disproportionate amount of its time trying to convince people that they're victims and that they should wallow in their grievance rather than actually trying to empower people, rather than bringing a message of optimism. And we saw that with Kamala. I thought when she came out of the gate, she started out pretty good. She had a very optimistic attitude. You know, she kind of appropriated a lot of this messaging from the right, talking about free markets and free speech and building up businesses and things like that. And I don't think people fully bought into it. But I think that's the right direction that the Democrat Party should go. Because if you have two parties to choose from and you have one that's constantly calling you a racist and telling you that no matter what happens, our country's in the dumps, or, our country's this horrible country and you can never move up in life. Or your other option is somebody saying, hey, we're going to make America great again. Everybody's going to thrive. The average person is probably going to drift toward the more optimistic message. And so I just think that the left has just been quagmired in this kind of victim mentality for too long. Like, I'm not saying that there aren't conversations that can't be had about certain things, but the way they do it is not in the context of improving the country. It's in the context of tearing down the country. And there's a difference, and there's a distinction to be made, I think, in the mind of the average working class voter.
What do we have here in regards to these graphs here?
That is a look at the swing that you saw toward the Republican Party this election. And so you can see, even among college-educated counties, you can see that 10-point swing there. So it's a stunning graph, and it shows you the coalition that Trump successfully built. And it shows you how much in the hole Democrats are going to be now going into midterms and going into the next election. There were 35-point swings in some cities.
Wow. We have an early vote getter for the MVP of the night, Fletcher.
That's right.
Estrada.
Yes,
coming in with a couple of more super chats. This is how we keep the show going, how we keep our channel going. And I want to thank Carlos, because it looks like he's going to be the MVP of the night. Start off some, maybe you guys want to beat him. I don't know.
It's
for $2. Shout out to Robert Barnes. Get well soon. Robert Barnes has been representing an Amish farmer for his right to produce food for his family and customers. Really?
Yeah, that's how the whole Amish thing started, because I guess they were raided, their farms, and they, because they were selling unpasteurized stuff. So
yeah,
that's how it all kind of broke down and started the whole Pennsylvania Amish thing. And the Pennsylvania ones actually got Pennsylvania Dutch billboards, since they don't use electronics or social media. They actually put up billboards to communicate with the other Amish communities to get the vote out to register, because of the overreach of the government into their farms. They actually destroyed their livestock. They destroyed their food and stuff like that. So,
well, Brandon and Carlos, what I saw would really impress me was maybe about a month ago, where Trump went to Pennsylvania and met with the farmers. And like you said, like this union of farmers, and they told their stories. Well, that's been going on the last 4 years. I never knew about any of that as far as national news, because national news never covered it. These are our own people, our
there's
own
a few
land.
sites. Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's mainly only been covered by media on the right. There's been a few sites like The Blaze and stuff that have reported on it, but you haven't really seen it in the mainstream.
But why is that politicized? Why should that be politicized? We're talking about American soil, American land being sold off to foreign to foreign owners. Why is that? Why if I say that and I don't like that, then I'm deemed alt-right. It's like that's just absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, go on, Brandon.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I've had people, even with me making the predictions I did with this election, like I've had people be like, "Oh, Brandon, you're alt-right or you're super conservative." And it's like, yeah, okay. I literally wrote a column a couple years ago called "Trump is a Sacrilegious Devil." I've lost track of how many columns I've written about Trump. I'm not a fan of Trump, but I'm not going to push a narrative or fill my community full of BS just to push the Democrat Party into power, or just because I'm told to get in line. It's not going to happen. And so, I think like a lot of people, I don't have a home. I have no home right now, as far as politics.
You have an opinion of your own, Brandon? What? As a Latino man?
That goes back to what I say, right? They don't like that. They don't like people who step off the ideological plantation. They can't stand it. You see it right now with everybody who's fleeing to Blue Sky, right? Like all these people on Twitter now are fleeing to Blue Sky because their solution to being called out for living in a bubble is to retreat to a bigger bubble. So,
but it's a softer, gentler place,
right?
Yes.
Brandon, we got another super chat from Carlos, our MVP of the night so far, for $5. Do you think the no tax on tips and no income tax helped significantly towards encouraging college students to vote for Donald Trump?
Well, I've always been against those taxes, so I don't know. Maybe I would be surprised if this is again why I think the woke stuff is something that played a bigger role than what most people are realize. I don't think the average person even follows specific policy. I don't think they're looking at Trump or Kamala and being like, oh, Trump supports getting rid of this tax. Kamala supports getting this tax. Da 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 da. But I think what the average voter can do is be like, hey, my employer is forcing me to use my pronouns in my bio. Or, hey, my daughter plays on a sports team and they just lost to somebody who's pretending to be a guy or a girl or whatever. And so that's the type of thing that average voters look at and they feel that and they say, I don't want to be down with that. And they associate it with the left. And so, I mean, look, the left is its own worst enemy. I mean, I think it's good to have a big tent, but sometimes when you have too big of a tent, you don't stand for anything at all.
Fletcher, how are we doing with the poll in the YouTube chat?
The poll is sad because it doesn't have a lot of love. So if you guys can go check out the poll, it's only got 48 votes.
Okay, all right. You got to read out what the poll is. What are the options? Because that's crazy.
So the poll right now is: will celebrities' endorsement backfire? 1, yes, no manchen. We got 2, no, don't care. We got 3, maybe, but it's free speech. And we got 4, we got endorsement at where? We got endorsements at home. And right now, 1, no manchen is winning with 62%, blowing everybody away.
Nice.
Vote.
So yeah, there's things to do in the chat right now besides rattling off your opinions and your thoughts, which we all love. Okay, keep it civil, but keep it moving. You can smash the like and you can vote. It's all for free, brother and sister. Free. And one of my favorite gals supporting this channel, Julissa, we love her so much. Not all of us are fans of Trump, but the alternative was worse. Okay. Pure family, flash poll. That's a lot of my family members. And they had never, ever before voted Republican.
Yeah.
And these are like, hardworking people, pillars in the community, doing community work, doing church work, working for the city. These aren't, what, 4th, 5th generation. But I guess what I'm saying is that Julissa's not alone.
I know a ton of people feel the same way. I mean, most people I know voted for Trump don't even like Trump. And which it should be embarrassing for Democrats because you're so bad. Wow. You picked such a bad candidate and your policies are so bad that you drove a significant portion of the U.S. population to vote for Trump and possibly altered the two-party system for elections to come. You completely realigned the election system or helped Trump realign the election system, right? We've seen a two-party realignment and the issues that people care about. And, the left is stuck in this sort of faculty bubble where they don't even know what to do next because there's no agreement on why they got into this position to begin with. And I don't expect them to figure it out anytime soon. I think there'll be a few reasonable people who understand. But by and large, just based off, some of the things I've seen on social media and some of the talking heads, I wouldn't count on it anytime soon.
Okay, let's you know what? I'm gonna get to this super chat not only because RC from the NYC is on the East Coast, but he is a vet. It is Veterans Day, and like many of our family members, many generations before us have served. I want to say Happy Veterans Day to all those that had served, and God bless you, RC from the NYC, my Dominican brother from Washington Heights. Good evening, everyone. Hope all is well and safe. What'd I miss? Any tariff copium talk yet, Brandon? For $10. Your only fault, RC, is that you're a Yankee fan, but I love you anyway. According to AOC, people as of this week are just learning what a tariff is and that we're actually going to be paying for them, not countries paying for them. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's true. I agree with that. I mean, I'm a free market guy. I mean, like I told you, I'm largely a libertarian on most issues, and one of those issues is the economy. And so, yeah, I don't like tariffs. I'm against tariffs. I don't think they help,
Hmm.
and I think there's a potential for some of his economic plan to backfire depending on where he puts tariffs. He put tariffs on lumber during his first term, and it drove up lumber prices, which
Mm.
added to part of the housing cost crisis that we had. I don't hear anybody ever talk about that, but
Good
I
to know.
can't imagine you're going to have a good outcome if you apply tariffs everywhere. I do think that cost will be passed down to consumers, just like most costs. But maybe he's playing the long-term game and he's trying to muscle some of these other countries into giving the U.S. better deals on some other economic backside or something like that. So I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, for all the complaining on the left about Trump's tariffs, I don't exactly see any better economic policies coming from them. And so I think we have two bad options when it comes to economics. I think we have two bad options. I don't think either party, the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, is good when it comes to the economy. But if I'm
Mm.
looking at it like a spectrum, generally speaking, Republicans tend to be for a little bit more deregulation. I don't know if I told you this, but look, I talked to some people in the past couple weeks, and they were holding out to make investments based off who won the election. These were liberals that I was talking with, and they wanted Trump to win because they said he would be better for mergers and acquisitions. So, just generally speaking, I think the business community tends to favor the Republicans.
Sure, that always kind of goes from as long as I've been, just growing up. I always heard about the connections with business people and Republicans. RC, member of the channel since day one. My dude, thank you so much. Thanks to my brothers and sisters, veterans, for your service, leadership, and sacrifice. Sounds good to me. Really good to me. I put up a photo of my grandfather who served in World War II, and everyone thought it was me in a uniform. No, it's not me. It's just strong genes. Uh, Thinking about all my past relatives who are no longer with me, my living relatives that are still with me and who have served. So God bless you all. Let's play a couple videos of thanks to all the super chats, and we'll be right back. How about that?
The low rider is a little higher.
Over 125 people live with us combined. We are on X. We are on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We want to thank all the super chats, all the members of the channel. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much to our special guest, Brandon Loran Maxwell, with the Daily Chella. Let's get back to your article. Nothing illustrates how out of touch the left is more than wokeism, which over the years has seeped into the Democratic Party apparatus and short-circuited common sense faster than one of RFK's brain worms. Wow. What does it mean to be woke? Rooted in the Black community, the term originally embodied a conscious nobility, a heightened awareness of social injustice, privilege, and inequality. That's right. Stay woke. Definitely remember hearing those terms. Muchísimas gracias. But wokeness today has morphed into something alien. It has become a Frankenstein of fringe ideas, ranging from men getting pregnant to defunding the police to children surgically altering themselves under the guise of affirming care, despite not being old enough to drink a beer. None of this seems sensible to the average person. To worsen matters, Democrats deride any average person who expresses concern. But those concerns are tangible and widespread. According to Gallup, 69% of Americans oppose men playing in women's sports, including half of all Democrats. Likewise, 68% of adults oppose giving youth puberty blockers. These are issues, Brandon, I would not have ever imagined that we would be facing when I was growing up, or even in the 90s.
Well,
I can't
they're
imagine
issues.
really
There,
fast. I can't imagine our founding fathers when they wrote the Constitution that they could imagine anything that we are
Yeah.
It's just, and this has been such a radical change the last 30 years. So yes, you were going to say?
Well, they're issues because the Democrat Party made them issues, because the Democrat Party is dependent on manufacturing victims in order to stay in power. It's that simple. And so, it's the same reason. Look, Republicans, I always say this, they manufacture enemies to stay in power. Democrats manufacture victims. Democrats got to find a new line of work or find something else to stand for, because the majority of Americans don't support these issues, and the polls bear that out. And the reason we're dealing with these issues, and there's plenty of studies out there that show it's even a contagion to some extent, that the Democrat Party keeps pushing this in everybody's face. It's all you hear about, and they lost the election as a result.
I just can't imagine that you would lose an election over something that, a very small portion of our population, has to deal with. And listen, God bless everyone. You do you be
It's
you.
not just them. It's not just trans people.
No.
It's look, my heart goes out to the people that are truly struggling, the children who are struggling, that have these issues that they deal with. But a lot of it also comes from it being pushed on them as well. And there's studies that show that. That's
Well-
why we didn't deal with this to the extent that we are now, 30,
Right, okay.
40, 50 years ago.
Mhm.
Now, when people think of woke, they're not just thinking of one issue. Like, there's a multitude of issues.
Mhm.
And so, I remember there was a Supreme Court ruling many decades ago, if anybody's ever studied case law, that a judge was asked to define pornography, and he said he couldn't, but you knew it when you saw it. Well, that's kind of like woke, right? You know it when you see it. Even though I do offer a definition, and I've written a definition multiple times on my Twitter, and I also talk about it here. But it's sort of like that. And I think for the average American, they just know it when they see it, and they're sick of dealing with it. I don't think they're necessarily thinking about one issue, although I think children are a big issue. I think that's a huge driver. When I toured those 35 cities for the movie, that's when that really first came to the forefront. Right? I remember being in Michigan. I toured 7 cities in Michigan. Michigan was a swing state. I had multiple people be like, man, I really don't like what they're doing to children. I really don't like the things they're teaching to children. That came up in every state. And that was when I remember texting some friends being like, hey, I think this is going to be a bigger issue than people realize, because I'm talking to Latino communities across the country, 35 cities, and this issue's come up in every single city.
I can't disagree with you, because in these past few months and watching so many rallies and videos of both sides, I was trying to like gauge what their audiences were really connecting to. And anytime he brought those up, they just got the biggest engagement. And I'm just kind of, I mean, that's what's on people's minds, regular people's minds, is issues like this. I'm just kind of blown away by this. Anything else in this article you want us to hit on?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, I don't remember everything I wrote. So I sat down, wrote it, and posted it.
Well, we want
I
to go to
think,
the Joe Rogan part. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, it's up to you. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Other users on social media suggested that the left lost because it doesn't have its own Joe Rogan. But a freewheeling podcast like the Joe Rogan Show, in which ideas are freely discussed, feels incompatible with the modern left, which is why Joe Rogan himself abandoned the left. In reality, the modern left hates debating ideas. It mocks open dialogue. It despises curiosity, and it does not conform to its rigid orthodoxy. That is the bubble that unchecked hubris produces.
Yeah, I mean, some of the biggest critics right now of the left are people who left the left.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle, Joe Rogan, Bill Maher, like the list goes on and on. These are all people who were originally on the left and were driven away by the left's, by a number of reasons. The left's lack of sense of humor is one of them for a lot of comedians. I think the left's sort of totalitarian approach to forcing their orthodoxy on everybody. I don't think most people care what decisions people make in their own lives. I think people just don't want it forced on them 24/7. And so I just think that people, this was a way for people to express dissatisfaction through a vote without necessarily having to go on the record publicly and express their dismay.
Before we shuffle to the next, actually be our first video, one that I pulled, and we start talking about Trump's appointments already, which are causing some controversy. Carlos comes in with another $5, Fletcher. We love that. We love it. We want everyone to be like Carlos.
Be like Carlos. See.
Paulie, have you seen a large group of Hollywood establishment, celebrity, worker, Trump voters celebrate his win publicly? I've not noticed them. Publicly, no. But from what I'm hearing, there's more of a tolerance of acceptance that that the conversation is out there amongst kind of people in Hollywood.
Hey, I'll tell you right now, and they might not. I don't know. Maybe some people won't like this, but there's a lot of people who in that industry that are happy. Like they're happy. Like they're tired a lot of that woke stuff that the left is pushing too. When I distributed my movies, I figured that probably at some point I was going to get into a bunch of debates with people along the way politically because of what I do. And pretty much everybody along the way agreed with me. That's what surprised me. I mean, I won't name names. I'll just say I made a movie. I put my movie in a lot of theaters, and my movie went all the way to Apple TV through a distributor. And I talked politics with everybody along the way, and the vast majority of them were right on my side about everything. And so I just think that not everybody wants to be out there discussing it. But even in the world of Hollywood.
Yeah, just to add to that, you are seeing just a kind of a more of what would have been a kind of a banishing, a canceling of people who voted for the other side. That's not really happening right now, not at all. And granted, the other side's really licking their wounds, but that's what I've seen and heard.
Well,
Carlos.
there's also like a lack of coolness factor, right? With the left is not cool anymore. Like for a lot of people, I was really surprised, like just speaking to a bunch of little kids in my neighborhood who play basketball and things like that, like hearing them talk about Trump and hearing them talk about Elon Musk. Like Elon Musk is incredibly popular, like bizarrely popular among kids. And I'm like, for me, I probably would not have cared about an Elon Musk when I was that age, but everybody thinks that these people are cool. And I just think that the left, they've lost this sort of cool factor because again, they're seen as the establishment, and which they are. They are the establishment. And all the cool media happening is not the mainstream media. Like it's away from mainstream media. It's the podcasts. Some of the biggest documentaries happening. I'm not talking about mine. I'm talking about other documentaries are happening on streaming platforms like the Daily Wire and the Blaze and things like that. And so I'm fascinated by it. I think the left is going to have to alter its worldview and the angle that it's looking at everything if it wants to remedy this problem.
Right. I mean, he went on Aiden Ross. You know what I mean? It's like because his son told him to. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, go to a Twitch kick streamer that he's a YouTuber that plays video games and have the president interview the president. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Brandon's going to take a quick break. What I would like to thank you so much, Carlos. Brandon, we'll see you in a few.
I'll be back.
Yeah, man. What I'd like to do, Fletch, is have you read our starred comments, and I'll do a little responding. Thank you guys so much. Over 140 people combined watching us. Get on over to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're growing. It is really amazing. We just released our 20th edition of our newsletter today. We actually don't always talk politics. And in fact, we're going to be wrapping up our own political coverage with this live stream. And we're going to get back to the OG kind of entertainment that we cover. But, you got the Daily Cello for that, Fletcher. You
That's
know what I mean?
right.
So, okay, what do you got, brother?
All right, so we got Shanoski. Haven't seen you in a while, bro. What is up? Funny how they support minorities until they vote the wrong way, then they hate them. Wow.
Okay.
Shanoski.
What's up, Shanoski? Good to see you, man. We need to have a lunch again soon. Let's go to Gilbert's Al Indio.
Nice.
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica,
That's
nice.
my favorite spot.
Yeah. Jay Sand says Latino slant will be deported. Oh no, we're
Save
deporting
that,
citizens?
because Fletcher knows that I have real problems with their whole immigration stuff. with Trump's immigration stuff. So, anyways, go on.
All right. So Julie's a member of the channel, says they also call everyone that votes differently from them uneducated.
Yeah, that's really sad, because that's I'd say we're saying right now it's the Democrats that are doing that, and I'm sure both parties have done that in the past. I think it is, in fact, I know both parties have done that in the past, and to kind of degrade the voters reminds me of Hollywood degrading the audiences and the fans for not liking the work, for saying, I don't like your iteration of said motion picture, character. But then they like, oh, okay, well, we'll do better. But instead they like, you're the racist for not liking it.
Right.
You're stupid. You need to evolve. All right, go on.
All right. We got Bumpy in the house.
Bumpy. Bump, bump. What's up, Bumpy?
Dorian Curran Goodwin was once a respected historian in America. She says Kamala ran a good campaign, did all she could, and that there is still racism and sexism in America.
I've heard this, that people are saying for the time that she had, she ran a good campaign. Define good. You were able to raise money. You were able to have and go to rallies and organize rallies and get people to vote. A lot of people voted on the Democrat side. I'm not going to give that. I'm going to give that. I give that to them. But if there's any indication how you would run a government, is how you run your election campaign. You raised $1 billion and you're $20 million in debt. You paid these celebrities just obscene amounts of money to show up. That doesn't sound like a good campaign to me. You did not endear yourself, obviously, to the majority of voters, and that's what you got to do. But let me just say this. I don't even blame Kamala for that. I blame the Democratic Party, because they skipped the primary process, which is what they were supposed to have done the last couple of years. And that's when I really got upset with them, because of what they did to RFK Jr., what they did to other potential people who wanted to run, Shapiro, even Newsom, is that you have a vetting process. And if you really followed what's been going on as far as politics the last couple of years, you know that Kamala Harris was the first to get bounced in the vetting process as far as the primaries in 2019, because she just wasn't a good candidate. And Tulsi Gabbard called her out in a debate, and shortly thereafter she plummeted and she left. So, in my humble opinion, I just don't think she just was not a good candidate, and that there's racism and sexism in there. Oh, sure. Okay. Whatever you say, Doris. I actually like a lot of Doris's work in the past, but I don't agree with her. All right, let's move on.
All right, so we got Kenny Castillo in the house, homeboy and friend of the channel. Stephen Miller, a known racist, was just appointed deputy chief of staff and policy. I'm more worried about that than wokeness.
100%. And I've already raised up my flag on that on X. I knowing Stephen, not personally, but knowing that he went to the same high school I did, and knowing the stories, I can't stand him. I think he's terrible, a terrible pick. It actually infuriates me that they have brought him back into the fold. And as a citizen and as a voter, I get to complain, and I have our little platform, and you best believe I've already sent a tweet out and tagged Donald Trump saying, this MFer, get him out of there. You're trying to build this new coalition of voters, this new coalition of people. He doesn't need to be there. Rubio doesn't need to be there. I'm with you, Kenneth. I'm really upset with this, and we're going to talk a little bit more. All right, let's go on, Fletch.
All right, we got Big Brown Dow says bad reasoning. I think it was talking about what you guys were when we were reading the article.
Big Brown is the master of just kind of sentences that kind of sound cool, but it just doesn't make sense. And there's no connecting to a reality where you can have a real conversation with Big Brown. It's kind of like his boxing training. So what I would say is lead with your left, put your chin down, and stay light on your toes.
Don't rope a dope.
Hey, thumbs up if you're ready to come back in, Brandon. Brandon, you ready to come back in? Just give me a thumbs up. All right,
there you go.
There we go, buddies.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Fletch.
Kenneth concedes the grievance vote was strong. Young men across economic and cultural backgrounds want to blame wokeness or Hollywood for the Democrats for the reasons they can't make things happen for themselves. You want to take a gander at this, Brandon?
Have at it, Brandon.
Oh, well, I mean, look, that might be true, but it doesn't change the fact that people are still voting against them for that reason. And so, you know, I mean, it's like in politics, if you want to win elections, you might not agree with why people are voting against a candidate, but at some point you have to acknowledge what that reason is. And so, yeah, that might be why a lot of people vote against what you would describe as people's own self-interest. But at the end of the day, that's the reason why. And it's not going anywhere. And so Democrats got to find a way to change that if they want to win back those votes. And they're not going to win it by calling everybody a racist or calling everybody a bigot. And they're probably not going to win it by continuing with the same platform. At the very least, they're going to have to change their messaging. And maybe they'll test that come midterms. Maybe they'll change their messaging to see if that works. And then they'll apply that to the next election. So I would suspect they're going to try a lot of different things these midterms in 2 years from now. And probably they're going to try to find a new candidate and completely abandon like the Biden-Obama coalition. Because at this point, that coalition's over. It's done. The politics of yesterday in the Democrat Party no longer exist.
Isn't that something? We were
yeah,
on
it's
a
amazing.
high with Obama.
These things happen.
I voted for Obama twice, man.
They happen. This happens. You know, this is part of politics. This is why I love politics. And if
I mean, this is your livelihood. But
yeah, you go back 100 years.
My life, homie.
Yeah, you see this happen a lot. You know, there was a point when
You're right.
Republicans were super pro-war. Now they're anti-war. There's a point when Democrats were anti-war. Now they're pro-war. I mean, it just issue by issue, there's been lots of changes over time. I mean, look at the Republican Party under Abraham Lincoln and how much that changed over time. And then look at the Democrat Party, you know, later on in the 60s and the 50s. So it's just
that's just where we're at.
Realignments. Yeah.
That's just where we're at. Okay, let's stop. Let's stop the comments for now. Thank you guys so much to the members of the channel that have comments. I'm gonna get to them. I promise you. And if you are a member of the channel and have been a member of the channel, let's do a little challenge. Let's gift at least one new membership each from one of you guys to someone else in the chat. One gifted membership, right, Fletcher?
Yeah, that would help out a lot.
What a way to sell it. Do the back sell there, Fletch.
No, it's the straight sell.
Oh my God. All right. So do that, man. I would love for the members that are in the chat right now, in our YouTube chat. I challenge you guys to gift one membership tonight to someone in the chat. Let's go right now. They had just announced this gentleman here to be the border czar for Mr. Trump. And can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is from Ed Krasinstein. I follow him. I try to follow people on the left and right. We put this up. Fox News just called out Trump. I get it. People don't want criminals entering the country, but most Americans also don't want the U.S.-born children, American citizens of undocumented immigrants forced to leave. They don't want grandma deported, and many don't want hardworking contributors to our economy expelled either. People voted for stronger borders, but what they're getting looks like an extreme approach. Trump didn't tell you the whole story. We're going to see a video of young American kids deported alongside their immigrant parents. We'll see elderly women being forced to leave. Let's see how that impacts the way people vote in 2026 and 28. And here is the Fox video.
I do want to say something, though, about Tom Homan. So for everyone who said Trump doesn't know what Project 2025 is, he just put a key contributor in charge of this. And Tom Homan was interviewed on 60 Minutes, and he was asked, is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families? And he said, of course there is. Families can be deported together. He also said that it didn't mean if someone was coming to be, quote unquote, rounded up and grandma was in the house, and she's undocumented, that it didn't necessarily mean that grandma wouldn't be taken to. And you can say Donald Trump has a mandate till you're blue in the face. Taking grandma is not what people were voting for. They were voting for criminals to be kicked out of this country.
Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Well, if she didn't vote for Trump, I don't think she's in any place to say what people who voted for Trump are voting for. So she's making a huge assumption on what people are voting for one. But two, yeah, I mean, I look, I'm not a fan of Homan, and I'm not a fan of Miller. And I think it's a strategic mistake that will quickly hand the White House back to the Democrat Party if they go in there and they start deporting grandma or people who've been here for a long time. And I'll be one of the loudest voices speaking out against it, just like I was rallying against, calling out Democrats over this past year. So I wrote a column called Immigrants Make America Great. And that column was cited at the U.S. Supreme Court just about a year ago. So look, I'm very pro-immigrant. I always have been. I understand why anybody would vote for Trump in terms of like a protest and things like that. But as far as that policy related to immigrants, we'll see how it plays out. You know, he's in power right now, and time will tell. I bet he has two different people on. I think he has people on each side of him. I bet he does have Stephen Miller and Hoffman on one side saying, hey, go in there and just deport anybody who is undocumented. And then you probably have some more reasonable people on the other side of him saying, just focus on the criminals. Now, I'll tell you right now, if Trump, I think there's another strategy that can go behind this, which is to float the idea of deporting families and float the idea of deporting grandma in order to get people to self-deport so the government doesn't have to do it. And so you can create sort of this environment of fear while the government in reality goes and only deports criminals. That is what I suspect is actually happening behind the scenes, if I had to guess, just knowing politics. And so I think that they're going to try to get people to self-deport by creating an environment of fear. And I don't think that's any better than them actually going and deporting people either. I don't want to see immigrants live in an environment of fear. Now, the third option is they go in and they literally only deport the criminals. They only deport the bad guys. And they provide a way for people who've been here for a long time to become citizens. If they do that, Republicans will win the next presidential election, guaranteed, because they're going to keep the Latino vote and they're going to keep a lot of people happy. And a lot of people are going to say, okay, all those fears were unfounded. And I think that would be a huge strategic win for the Republican Party. I'm skeptical if that's going to happen, though, with Stephen Miller in his ear and Hoffman. Or
Wow.
Homan.
Homan. Fletcher, we haven't asked what you thought. What are your feelings of this? Because I know you're a very public pro-Trump voter. Am I being? Yeah, and you're Latino too.
That's right. And I'm an immigrant. I wasn't born in this country.
Ding,
I had
ding,
to
ding,
deal
ding.
with the horrible immigration situation that's horrible and broken and detestable. So I did hear some of his comments. Yeah, some of his comments are crass. Is one of these crass guys who, are boisterous and stuff like that. Some people it resonates with because, at one thing they're saying they want somebody tough. A lot of people are, they don't want the wishy-washy stuff. And part of it, from what I heard, he says, if you want asylum, come through the right way, don't come through the bad ways, which is hurting the immigrants because, they're getting all kinds of horrible things are happening to them. I mean, Mexico in itself, there's mass just holes in the ground with poor ladies and children because of it. So I'm like, I don't know why can't they just fix this of making it a port or something where people can come through. And I think this is what is probably going to end up happening. And I agree with Brandon. I think they don't, for one thing, they don't understand Trump is a businessman and he thinks things like businesses. So if he sees, if you're an immigrant who's going to come and make America money and make America great, I don't think he's going to have a problem. I don't see that happening. And if you want to come and do the right way, I don't see that happening. Could bad apples be in there too? Of course. Could the government foul it up? Is the government? Of course they're going to foul it up. But, I at this point, I don't know what else they could do because, it's so busted. It's horrendous. I mean, it's really, really bad. When we first come to the United States, we lived in El Paso for a while. And that's just, people literally tied to each other going by the River Grande, and you could see the whirlpools. My family's part, from my mom's side, we're from Brazil. I know what, the Amazon is all kinds of little whirlpools out there and all kinds of things. And these people were coming through. And that was like back in the days, I think Clinton and all that stuff. So it's like, this is not safe. It's not, and if you're saying I can't get through anywhere here, but I can walk through this bridge, that's beautiful, wonderful bridge, and then I ask for asylum if that's available, and then do it that way. I mean, to me, it feels like a non-brainer, but, I don't know much about what policies they're going to enact or anything like that. There's so much stuff going on. I haven't heard that. But when he said that, I was like, oh, that makes sense to me. At least having lived in border town, I figured it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily think that, the compassionate response is what it's been all along, right? Where families are left dying in the Rio Grande or dying in the desert and things like that. I don't think that's compassionate either. And that's the policy that we have with the left at this time. So, we've got this huge convoluted system that's backed up now. And it's difficult and it's expensive and it's long to be able to become a citizen. So hopefully there can be some type of bipartisan support with nothing else attached to it, like funding for Ukraine and things like that, that both parties can agree on and push through, that give these people who have been here, dreamers and such, an avenue for a way to become an American citizen.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, that's all they want. Hopefully, like I said, if you being a libertarian, Brandon, I know you know that the bigger the government, the more foul it's going to get. The smaller it is, the more streamlined it could be. Maybe they can come up with something. With Elon and all this kind of stuff, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they come up with some kind of Tesla bridge that could help the immigrants come in the best way, or an app in a phone. So, we'll see what happens. And that's all we can do, and I see Kenneth in the comments saying that I give Trump a lot of grace and nuance, and Trump is who he is. And look, I understand that. And me and Kenneth have talked politics a lot over the years. And it's not that I'm trying to give him grace as so much as I'm looking at his record. He was president already once. And he came into office with a lot of rhetoric that turned out to be a lot of BS. He still didn't deport anywhere near as many people as Obama did. Obama and Clinton deported more people. And he didn't finish his border wall. So it's tough to know what is real and what is not with Trump, because Trump has a lot of rhetoric, and the way that he, talks about his policies is very combative and divisive compared to most candidates. And so I think a lot of people are going off that rather than necessarily what types of policies might actually go forward. And so that's what I'm going off of. And during those first 4 years, I didn't see a lot of what he said he was going to do. Yeah.
Nice, man. Kenneth Castillo. Love you, brother. It's good to have you here in the chat. I got to return he texted me today about go see something fun and cool. Maybe we can cover it for the slant. Look at Obama, deporter in chief. That was the nickname given to him by a Latino advocate, immigrant advocates.
Yeah.
He was pretty rough, and it was, you know, I got into it a little bit on X in regards to just not loving their choices, but also to kind of like people being flippant about it, deport them all, you know, that whole ugly side of it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I
my
don't like
only
that.
thing, huh?
I said I don't like that. You know, I mean, I don't like that flippant attitude toward immigrants either. These are families. You
Absolutely.
know, so
Absolutely. And that's what I said is that this is not a game. You know, this person said, you know, play on like it's a game, and seeing who that person was, it's like, well, I think this person is also an immigrant. I don't want to name names, Fletcher. But I think this person is also an immigrant, maybe probably a legal resident at this point. But my my knowledge is that this hits home differently for Mexican Americans. It always will.
Mhm.
It always will, because that is the history of these people, right? Mexicans before, Mexican Americans in the last 150 years. It's a completely different thing from Cubans, from Puerto Ricans, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So that history and that history of working migration of workers back and forth is nothing new. Now, that is different. That is something I'd like this administration to make a clear and strong discernment on than lumping them in with hardened criminals. Because
well, I
let's
think that is what's going to happen. Unfortunately, I think that Mexicans will bear the brunt of this because Mexicans are still 63% of all Latinos, right?
right.
And so you have a lot of people right now who are upset at Venezuelans, at Colombians, at Haitians, things like that. And then, but the majority of immigrants are still here from Mexico. And so if the government comes in and just starts only going off who is here legally and who's not, it'll be Mexicans that suffer disproportionately.
Well, and my final thought, right, that I was getting to is that there is a certain amount of hypocrisy, naivety in regards to the Mexican worker. It's always has been like that. This is not anything new. It's nothing new, guys. We as Americans have for well over 100 years just do not do this type of work. That's who I want to protect. Not hardened criminals that come in here illegally. I get it. Well, they're illegal already, Paulie. They came here illegally. I understand it, but two things can exist on the same plane. This is a complex issue. If that's the case, then we gotta revisit a strong workers program that's existed before, Brandon, in the 20s and 30s and the 40s. But when times have changed, it becomes Operation Wetback. It becomes a Repatriation Act, and that's bullshit. So this is where my, if you want to call it my liberalness, comes out. I really don't care. This is just how I feel. That's all. That's all.
Well, I think this this goes back to how nuanced of an issue it is. Because I'm relatively I'm pretty libertarian on a lot of things, and immigration is one of those issues, right? Like, I mean, if you really believe in markets and the free will to be able to make choices with yourself and things like that, then you don't let necessarily nation border states stop you. Now, I understand that we need to have a process, and I'm all for having a process and knowing who's here. But that process right now is such a mess. It's so convoluted. And there are people who have been here for 40, 50 years.
Mm.
And so I just think the government, if they're smart, which they're not most of the time, they will find a way to legalize the people who are here and law abiding citizens. And they will only spend their resources hunting down the people who are creating problems, including among the immigrant communities. And so,
Absolutely great conversation with Brandon Loran Maxwell. Daily Cella happening. You got to go right now. Subscribe, Substack. Then you have the Daily Cella TV app. Got to be part of. Latino Slant's featured in it, man. We're part of it. Also, to look at the conversations that are happening in the chat. The brown face of of nationalism is in the house. Mexican Iron Man. Cabron. If you're here illegally, then you got to get the hell out of my country. My family did the right way and legal way. It took a while, but the law is the law. You know what, Brandon? I can't argue that either.
Yeah,
Romy's family, Romy's parents did the same thing, man. And you talk about family separation. They had to leave their kids in Portugal and come and settle in and do the legal way. For 2 years, they were away from their kids. And then the process happened. Now, granted, that was in the 70s, so it probably moved a little quicker back then. But Mike is right as well, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people who feel that way. I was not an immigrant, so it's hard for me to know, firsthand that process. I have a couple family members who came here in the 80s, and they went through that process, and it was a long process. It took a long time to become a citizen, and it's a very screwed up process as it is, and so,
yeah, and it's draconian.
Yeah, I would just like to see the process get fixed, and in a sensible way. I don't think rounding up 11 million people is sensible. But I don't think you're going to get pushback from most people if you just go after the legit criminals.
No, absolutely.
How do you know which one is which, though? How would you separate it?
Well, look, there's a fair amount of people who have been picked up and released, and I think probably the government can start there. I think the government knows, who a lot of these people are. I mean, obviously, there's probably some concern that people are going to get lumped in these dragnets. Oh, yeah. And that is a concern. And, maybe there'll be some type of safeguard that's put into place in the court system that prevents that or protects people. Obviously, I would never advocate for something like what you're seeing in El Salvador right now, where they just round up everybody who has certain tattoos and things like that with no due process. So, yeah, there should be some type of due process. I don't know what it looks like, but I know that the difference between this time around and last time is that they're going to go in there, I think, with a pretty solid plan. So I think it's aspects of it will happen. I just don't know who they're going to go after yet. There's no way to know.
And that's good. So you think they might do something like El Salvador, which is now the safest country in Central America?
No, I don't. Look, it's kind of like Abraham Lincoln suspending habeas corpus, right, during the Civil War. Can you say that he should have imprisoned people in media and things to win the Civil War? Or do you think that he should have stayed with the Constitution and protected the First Amendment? It's like one of those things, I mean, just in our country, it's, there is, generally speaking, it's better to let 9 guilty people go free than convict 1 innocent man. What do they call that? The Blackstone principle?
Right. But those are citizens.
Those are citizens. That's fair enough. But even if you have I think we were talking. So you're saying non-citizens who didn't commit a crime and a non-citizen who committed a crime, you would put them in the same category.
Well, a citizen who committed a crime and a non-citizen who came in through committing a crime already committed a crime. So it's a bit of a difference.
But there's a difference in degrees. And so, for example,
so let me put it this way.
One second.
Okay,
coming here, a legal entry is a misdemeanor. It's not a felony.
Right. But it's a federal,
it's the same as
misdemeanor, which you go to federal court to, because immigration is federal court. It's not state court. So it's like when you get a ticket, like when people are out in Lake Mead.
It doesn't matter if it's federal or state. It's a misdemeanor. It's the same as jaywalking.
Right, but a misdemeanor in state court gets dismissed by the judge. A misdemeanor in federal court, you have to go through the process. It can't get dismissed. They won't be able to dismiss it. But it's like a huge process. There was a time when they were saying that we were illegal in the country because our lawyer didn't file the thing, and we were like, I guess we're going to jail. And our whole family had to deal with that.
Half my friends who are in prison because of that process that you just described, right? Like, yes, it's a lot different if you're not a citizen and you commit a crime. But what I'm saying is, I can't tell if you're saying that can't get dismissed, because what I'm saying is it's not worth the government's time and taxpayers' money to have a dragnet. So say you have a dragnet.
And someone said that
take
in the
a
chat
win.
that at the end of the day, Trump doesn't like to spend that type of money.
Yeah,
Waste,
he's not going
waste
to.
that
I doubt
money.
he was. Yeah, I doubt
Yeah,
it.
and I
Yeah.
think that might be true too. You
That
know,
might
I mean,
be
that
true
might be
too.
some silver lining in just looking at how he runs things. So, and I don't think Homan's that way though. I think Homan would spend the money. He said that he would. He said that you can't put a price on what it is to deport
I,
people. So
I like nothing that's coming out of Homan's mouth the last 24 hours. But let's move on. You guys are great. I feel you guys could you two can ping pong with a debate, and I know Brandon loves to do that. That's why I'm
me,
stopping you.
no.
I'm stopping you guys. God bless Latino Slant. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Also, too, we have a challenge. Members in the chat, Mexican Iron Man. Members in the chat, anyone else? Gift at least one membership tonight to someone new. RC from the NYC did it. He gifted 5 Latino Slant memberships, and here are the winners: Jason Evangelista, Improbly, Morning
Improbably,
Haze,
yeah.
John Platt, GJJ. What's up, GJJ? Thank you so
Nice.
much, brother RC from the NYC. I really appreciate it. We love memberships. We're going to be having a membership stream very soon. Membership perks also too are movie nights and discount on merch, all that good stuff.
Kind of like what you're wearing right now. That's merch right now.
This is merch.
Show 'em the
I
shirt.
do love that.
Merch.
Defund the Thought Police t-shirts. Great holiday gifts. Great quality shirts, all different colors. The link is in the chat. I have a couple myself, and I did the design after the RoboCop logo. Cool.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So thank
Merch.
you so much, RC for the NYC. Instant Defense came in with $1.99 super sticker. We love super stickers.
It's a thumb
Thank
up.
you so much. It's a what? Yeah. What is it?
It's a thumb up, like a thumb up. Yes.
Boom.
Boom.
Boom. Thumb up. Boom. And over 146 people combined in our chats. Get on over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the like. Make sure you vote and say hello. Been some lively discussions, Fletcher, in the chat. We start some. Why don't you read through some of them for us?
All right. Yeah. So we got RC from the NYC saying people who voted for Trump on the immigrant issue know they want his extremist plan, which are detailed in Project 2025. What say you, Brandon?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Project 2025 was put out by the Heritage Foundation. It was never a part of the Trump campaign. There's probably aspects of things in there that most Republicans would go with. And I think you see people like Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire saying, let's do Project 2025 just to troll the left. I would be surprised to see how much of it actually gets implemented over the course of Trump's campaign. And I think focusing on Project 2025 is only going to hurt Democrats long term because it's just most people just don't follow that stuff.
Right. All right. We got the godless Vulcan. Sorry about that. Nice cat. If Trump delivers all his promises, will Latino stick with Vance if he gets the nomination?
Yeah, that's really, I mean, that remains to be seen. And I was thinking about that as I was driving earlier. I was like sitting at a light and it was green and I was still thinking, and then somebody honked at me and I was like, oh, I better start going. I don't know, but I think that is going to be very interesting because, Trump has a unique appeal. And so Trump's kind of an eccentric guy. And, people have sort of like rode this wave with him from celebrity candidate to, running and losing to getting indicted, to getting shot at, to overcoming improbably all these odds to become president. That's endeared himself to the people who voted for him. And so, can Vance come in and recreate that or talk to those communities in the way that Trump can? No, probably not. And I think that that will benefit Democrats. Now, assuming that Trump is still around, then most likely he'll be touring with Vance and throw his endorsement behind Vance. So Vance will have that advantage. And so, yeah, we'll see. But if Trump isn't around for some reason, then, Vance is probably going to be just another politician. Now, he's a good politician, But I think Democrats stand a much better chance against somebody like Vance. Like, for example, they run Bernie Sanders or somebody against Vance, you're going to have a pretty good race as opposed to running against Trump.
Do you think they would run somebody like Sanders?
I don't know. I feel like both parties are going to try to just shut some chapters. And I think with the left, I think they're going to try to come up with a completely new candidate. I think Sanders is probably too old to run in 4 years or 8 years. I think he might be a part of whatever coalition they build. But they've got some soul searching to do. You know, I don't know who's waiting in the wings. I look at people like Castro in Texas and stuff like that, and I don't know if they have it. But I know this much. I know that the media has changed, and the next candidate who comes along is not going to win the election if they can't sit down and have a 3-hour conversation on a podcast. And I heard somebody else make this point, and I completely agree, which is this is the most effective way to get to know a candidate. You know, gone are these days of like these 5-minute appearances on Meet the Press where everything is scripted. Now, and you saw this difference between Kamala and Trump, you got to have a candidate who's relatable, who can sit down with the Joe Rogans of the world and just talk for 3 hours so people can see how people think, so they can see how they talk, you know, where their interests lie, how they respond to different things. And so Democrat Party are going to have to find somebody like that.
Nice.
All right. Who else do we got? What else we got?
All right.
Before we go into our next
okay.
topic.
Let's see. We got Marcus C, who is a member of the channel. Thank you. People remember that times were better under Trump. No war, no and economic growth. Uphill battle that never was going to be won by someone as unimpressive as Kamala.
Thanks, Mark. Love you, man. Hope you're well.
All right.
¿Qué más?
We got a member of the channel, RC from the NYC, Zero Next, and many people praising tariffs being Trump economic flex. Now the term tariffs is one of the most searched terms in Google. Yeah, a lot of people don't know what tariffs is, Brandon. How would you explain it to a 5-year-old?
It's a failure of our school system, right? I mean, it's essentially you're taxing other countries, and so you know that it gets passed down to consumers. It's going to increase the cost of goods one way or another. But, you know, there's a lot of incentives as to why governments do this with other countries. I think China has a bunch of tariffs, but we're talking about products that were basically like other countries want to import into the United States. So, you know, we'll see what happens. We did it with lumber. It drove up the prices of lumber. Like I said, a lot of people don't talk about that. And I think it played a role somewhat in the housing prices, just like some of the zoning laws did, but I don't hear it get talked about enough, I don't think. So you can look back at Trump, and he's always been a protectionist. You know, he's always been like all about U.S. interests. My problem with that is somebody who's like a relatively free market guy is that, you know, that age is over, like the age of like economic isolationism. I think we live in a global economy. And so I think to shut ourselves off from the world, whether we do that with tariffs or whether we do that because we're trying to bring all of production back to domestic production, I just think it probably hurts us in the long run.
So you're saying we should have a defund the tariff police t-shirt?
I love that. I love that saying, though. I mean, like, defund the thought police. I wish I had thought of that. Like, it's a great saying. My question is, you know, I probably will not buy one, though, as long as it's on like Fruit of the Loom. I need a Pro Club or something like that. I need like a thick quality type of shirt.
It's the white t-shirt. This is thick. This is thick. Trust me. It's not as thick as your American Homeboy ones, but yeah, there's a little softer too, you know.
Softer to the touch. Greatest t-shirt ever. Awesome one, member of the channel. I think the idea is if you have two, one being able to pay for things with tariffs. What do you say?
Yeah, I think that you know, that probably is the idea. You know, there's probably multiple things that are going through his head. I think Trump also I think he's smarter than people, you know, what they give him credit for. You know, I don't think Trump is an idiot. I don't know how anybody thinks he's an idiot after these past 8 years or 12 years since he's been in the light. You know, he's a very driven person, and I don't think somebody gets to where he's at being an idiot. Does he say idiotic things? Yeah, but I think largely it's by design at this point. I think he knows how to control the narrative. I think he knew exactly what he was doing in the debate, for example, when he said people are eating the cats and dogs. The media ran with it for a week, and it completely sucked all the wind out of Kamala's performance.
Yeah, and that song was like #1 in Apple iTunes.
Yeah, so I think the left, as long as they keep treating Trump like an idiot, they're going to keep getting outmaneuvered by him.
Nice. We got Garrett, who's new to the channel. Welcome. Please subscribe. Can I go to Mexico and get free healthcare money and free rent paid by Mexican taxpayers? Heck no.
No.
I think it's more of a statement than a question, but thank you, Garrett. Julie's a member of the channel, says, well, hopefully they can investigate who's here working hard and contribute to society. We have a lot of hardworking immigrants here. What say you guys?
And in this case, what Julie says, getting at undocumented, right? Illegal immigrants, as opposed to the legal ones. I don't think legal.